Hi again. Today we're going to be talking about some things we can do with Howler regarding early film processes. And we're talking about the early 20th century when color film was first becoming popularized and technically feasible. Um, you can Google this anytime you like, but basically we're going to be talking about mostly the two color film process, not so much the three color film process. There was technologies like Technicolor that had a three color dye transfer process, which was quite interesting. They had a device that could record three separate rolls of um, black and white film at the same time, and then they were recorded using a beam splitter, a prismatic beam splitter, which split the film, which split the view from the camera into the separate spectrums of color: red, green, blue, or cyan, magenta, yellow. The film was made into a positive. They were bathed in a dye, and the dye was transferred onto a single layer of film, so that the film could be used with a standard black and white projector. Um, no technology had to change in a movie theater, so they could use the same projector because it was just using a single roll of film. But before that came around, there was a two color process, which was very similar. Instead of using cyan, magenta, yellow, or red, green, blue, or whatever, they used usually red and green, although there were some other variations. If you Google some of the early films, like the 1920s, I think it was Ben-Hur, or some of the other earlier films, like that period, you'll see that they used a similar process where the film was largely using red and green. We can see in Howler here, we've simulated this using two channels. Um, here's the red channel, here's the green channel. If we combine these using the multiply mode, we get what you saw before. And that's a good approximation of a color image. You can see that there is definitely no blue in there. We do have red and green. I believe they chose these colors because they reproduced flesh tones reasonably well. Whereas if they had used like a different color, like orange and blue or something, you get some reasonable blue and some reasonable reds, but you wouldn't get a good flesh tone. So I think that's why they probably chose that set of colors. But let's look at some other images. Okay, I chose this one. Let's see. I chose this image because it had a good range of all the available colors: red, green, and the lead is blue in the background, and so on. The mascot has been blurred out to protect the innocent, but we've made a cyan, magenta, and yellow pass of this. And as we said before, we can combine these one at a time. Let's see. Let's see if we can combine these one at a time and hopefully get a good or perfect, in this case, this is digital, mathematically accurate uh, representation of the original. Um, but say we tried to reproduce this using only two channels, we get something that it gives us a good representation of some of the colors in there, maybe the red and blue or the green and red and green, but we can't really reproduce the entire range. But we get something like this. Um, so there's some great techniques to learn here. If you ever need to duplicate the look of an old film, it's good to really understand the processes that were used back then. Um, Sometimes they would also add in a black and white channel to increase contrast. So the Technicolor film, the dye sublimation process, they used four channels. So let me do this. Let's see. And then they'd add a fourth layer, which was black and white. It would really increase that contrast quite a lot, even though not not technically necessary. It did create that distinctive Technicolor look of the rich colors and the high contrasts. So that's good to be aware of. But we've been primarily talking about a two-color process here, so I'm going to use just red and green and duplicate that. So here's the green channel, and I'll add in or I'll multiply in the red channel, and we get this Ben-Hur look. Um, like I said, we've duplicated the reds in there. We got a good brown on that bun there. The fries look all right, but we've really lost all our blues. So that is one of the limitations of only using a two-color process. Um, Now we could change the colors, like I said, use orange and blue or something similar, um, and we'll see where we go with that. Okay, so we've done a little bit better job of representing the entire range of colors in this. We've got something resembling blue in there now. We've got red. The bun looks good, but we have completely lost our greens here. So it's a trade-off. You got to lose something, and it really depends on what you photographed and what you want to say with your imagery. So that's basically the limit of using a two-color process. So one other thing we need to know about in Howler, though, is you don't really have to use all these separate layers. We have a tool built in that will do this for us. Going back to this original, and it is called the cinemascopic. Let me see, under the photographic menu under filters. There's this filter that will let us do that. We have to select the two colors we want to use, and this is like an orange and a blue. There are a couple of presets like that Ben-Hur preset or that Adventures of Super preset, not to be confused with Adventures of Superman. But there are some basic built-in ones there, or we can just go ahead and select whatever we want. But it's usually somewhere within the range that is specified here, although it doesn't have to be. But using your intuition, you can usually get a reasonable proximity of some of the colors. And then we got blue, we've got a good brown in here, but we kind of lost our reds. Nice golden brown looking French fries. So it's a trade-off. We could try greens, and we could try not sure, somewhere in there, greens and blues. We could try greens and purples. We could try a lot of different things, but ultimately it comes down to what works and what doesn't. There we go. Well, anyways, so it's really just a matter of finding the right colors. And each one of these represents basically, as we said before, those two channels or those two strips. But it's a great technique for creating vintage looking film type effects, or for just creating a color palette that's really unified, and some artistic type effects or some vintage type effects. So something to be aware of in Howler. That's about all I had to say for now. Thanks for watching, and talk to you later.